Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Emmett from Team Anvil, and I was just kind of tinkering. But look, thank you for coming, and we are just going to kind of jump right into the purpose of today's conversation, which originally I was thinking maybe just one episode of talking about why CQB is important would be enough. Um, I got so many comments from all of you out there regarding CQB. Can you talk more about it? How it's applicable? Why it's a topic of like hot discussion, and also like why it's so controversial. If you hear any chomping or gnawing in the background, don't worry. That's just my boy Zeus back there enjoying his yak milk bone. Those things are seriously expensive, but they're really good for dogs. And well, if it's good for your dog, then it's good for you. So, anywho, hide that and let's get busy with it. So, here's the deal. CQB is close quarters battle. Some people call it CQC, close quarters combat. There's all sorts of different names for it. The bottom line up front is it's warfare, and it's close and it's nasty and it's brutal and it's unforgiving. And if we're being honest, it's the last thing in the world that I ever want to have to do again. Why do I say that? Like when you look on Instagram, you look across the country, you look at SWAT teams and special operations infantry, you watch these cats do this stuff and it gets put out into the universe, and it's like it's what you see out there, and it's the first thing that you see. What you don't see is you don't see dudes like kind of laying in the prone trying to figure out their dope for like long range acquisitions and nailing targets and stuff like that, or what have you. You see what sells and what gets views, and that's dudes moving through houses fast and furious in a very highly controlled manner that are knocking down targets left and right. Um, but that's the last thing you ever want to have to do. I'm gonna tell you why. The enemy always gets a vote. So whether it's your house or it's over across the country, like, or across the world somewhere else, and it's U.S. soldiers, say there's airmen, Marines, special operators, whatever, right? Going and hunting down bad people in their neighborhoods. It doesn't matter the scenario. Bottom line is, once you go into a structure, all right, like you no longer have the advantage to like per se. And this is all my personal opinion and should be taken as such. There's guys out there that have way more experience than I have doing CQB in real life. Um, Having said that, I will say that if you ever run into somebody and they're like, man, I live for CQB, it's stressful. Imagine just in your own home thinking about, like, in the middle of the night, somebody bursting through your door. And if you've ever paced off distance in your own house, then you already know how long it takes for like just normal walking to get from wherever that door is to your room or to your children's room or to your living space, like where you may be. Imagine that happens in your house. Like, how fast can you get to your tools? Like, how fast can you defend your family? Now, if you know they're coming because you hear them messing around outside and you're like, all right, alert, 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 send the kids upstairs, call the cops, right? Get ready, like get your guns out, get ready to, engage if you have to. Um, imagine, imagine just if the more prepared that you are inside of your own structure, just think about, all right, now let me role reversal this. Now I'm on the outside of that door, and now I've given these people time to really prepare to defend their ground. And now, instead of you knowing what the layout of your house is and where the dead space is and what rooms are which way, like, now you know nothing. So it goes from completely known and prepared to completely unknown and unprepared. And the only thing you can do is flow. So whenever people attend our training, and I mean like all the time, whether it's just basic movements or anything, we really do like we preach down on flow like water, right? Like you could have the best plan in the world, it's not going to execute as you planned it. And because it's not going to execute like you planned, it doesn't mean you need to have mission failure. Actually, if you're just a little bit fluid and you go with the flow a little bit and you realize, hey, what, this is just like a minor roadblock, I'm just going to flow around it, not a big deal, then you'll have mission success or a high probability of it. That's what I think. But CQB is probably the scariest thing in the world that you would ever have to do. And hopefully nobody out there ever has to do it ever again if you've already done it. Ooh, you can see the halos from the ring lights in my glasses. That's not professional. I don't know. That's crazy. All right, I'm just gonna look down. Oh, I forgot to turn the chat off. What's going on, Angry Sarge, Garrett? I'm gonna turn the chat off now so I don't like focus on you guys. Psych, I need to focus on you guys. So 3 spoons, 550 quarter, 110 mile per hour tape. Let's go. And you know what? Like that's kind of cool that Angry Sarge said that, right? So like one thing that we used to do a lot of if we didn't have access to shoot houses, is we would do glass house drills, and then you just get a bunch of tape, like we call it engineer tape because it was white and engineers used it. Hey, what's going on, Vanessa Kitty? We would use that engineer tape to like essentially build the frame of our room, but it's like using chalk, but instead of chalk, it's like engineer tape. You just kind of pin it down to the ground, and then you can build any scenario you want. And really what it's all geared towards is getting you to kind of like understand, given this situation, like how do I react to it? What's my footwork need to look like? And how do I negotiate it? Well, when we're not in a glass house and now all of a sudden we have walls that are up and we can't see what's on the other side of that wall or where that door is exactly yet because we haven't approached it enough, then like it kind of changes everything once we get up on it. So like glass house drills are really awesome. Getting into different structures is even better. And then, like what we're going to be doing at Midwest Shooting Center, that's going to be kind of like high octane because we're going to be able to train everything that you don't want to really ever have to do in real life. And that's really the point. And that's why I've told, many people that have called me and like had a conversation with me about, hey, look, man, like I'm up in the air about coming to this training. It's $250 or a $200 training course. Why do I need to come to your course? And my answer is you don't need to. All right. But you should. And not because I want to make money, because if I wanted to make money, I would charge $300 and then I wouldn't provide any of the ammunition as part of like your charge, right? Like I would just be like, hey, you have to eat the cost of your own ammo and on top of that $300. But I'm really passionate about kind of giving back to people. And if I can help people, learn some new skills in the process, and hopefully, again, knock on wood, they never have to use them. But if you can show up and learn some new skills, given the situation, if it ever presents itself, like you'll be like far more prepared to deal with it mentally and physically than you would have if you would have never been exposed to what we're going to teach. And a lot of it is going to be under night vision, so if you got night vision, bring it. It'll be awesome. You don't have to have quad tubes and stuff like that. But a lot of it'll be under night vision. And you know what? There's a large part of it that won't be under night vision as well. Like a lot of the instruction will be white light or like lights on. You kind of walk it through during the daylight conditions, and then you go into it at night. You switch the lights off and now you're dark. So fundamentals of weapon safety and possibility of dead space. Yeah, man. And that's Yeah, solo clearing. That's the thing that's crazy. I don't I haven't really like went down the rabbit hole on like YouTube and stuff like that per se. I remember a few years ago I had Googled something CQB because somebody had or maybe it wasn't a few years ago, it was like within the last year. A guy that we know was he asked me, he was like, "Hey man, have you heard of this group?" I'm not gonna say who it is. And I was like, "No, man, I never heard of them, but they probably never heard of me either, so it's all good." And I YouTubed them, and like all these things started popping up, man, and I was just like, "Ugh, like this is getting taught, man." And at first I was kind of against teaching CQB stuff to people that, because I, in my head, the context that I was thinking about it in, I was like, regular people are never going to need to know how to clear a room, how to enter and clear, how to assess thresholds, to even know what a threshold is. Like nobody needs to worry about stairs or any of this other stuff until one day, I was kind of talking to somebody else in the industry and they were like, "Dude, man, like your experience transfers over completely to home defense. Like we all have homes. Most people have stairs in their homes. Most people have multiple rooms in their homes. Most people are surrounded by neighbors, live in apartment complexes. Like the amount of things that could go wrong in any given scenario, it's pretty likely for most people. Now, a home invasion is maybe not so likely, but like you even think like an apartment complex catching on fire, like if you already know the layout because you've worked your space, and you can flow. Man, he is really getting after that bone. If you can flow through your space effortlessly, then you should be able to get to somebody that is in need of help pretty quickly, right? It's all about efficiency. I try and hammer this out a lot at our training all the time. It's like, it's not that it's wrong. It's just you have what's efficient and what's more efficient. Now, if you can get to the, hey, everything that I'm doing is to become more efficient, then you're never really going to look at yourself and be like, "Oh, that's wrong." The only thing that's wrong is like pointing a gun at somebody that you don't intend to shoot and kill, right? Like that's pretty wrong. Um, or being like a dirtbag person, right? That just lies to people and like manipulates situations. So those are wrongs, universally known wrongs. But anyways, other than that, so with CQB, this event that we're going to be doing, the reason why I think it's like very beneficial for more than just law enforcement and military is because it's the closest you can get to a real gunfight without actually being in one. These simunitions, like when they get fired off at you, like you're going to hear that thing crack off and you're going to hear it go by you because it's traveling at a good rate. I think like 400 feet per second. Um, it may be less than that. I think it's like 400 feet per second. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's 400 feet per second. You see that, or I got my numbers mixed up. But in any case, it's coming at you at a significant rate of speed. And if it impacts with you, you're going to feel every bit of that. All right. And it's not going to feel good. But once it's all over with and like you get indexed and it's time to like stand around and talk about, hey, let's talk about lessons learned right now in the moment. How did you get shot? And walk that through. And that's what our training is. Like the amount of value that you can download and then transfer to everybody around you in the moment is, it's unmeasurable. Like a lot of times we'll do AARs, like after action reviews, after something has happened and it's like this big event and it's like people kind of like unintentionally like lose some of it and they're like, man, I had a really good point, but I just don't remember what it is because all this other awesome stuff happened or not so awesome stuff. So like whenever big moments happen during training, I like to freeze training and be like, hey, let's put the magnifying glass over this for a minute, really talk about what we're able to learn and extract from this situation. Then we can just like spread it all over everybody else that's there. And before you know it, you have a collective environment of people that are learning literally on the fly in real time, and they're learning valuable skills. They're learning not just what to do, but how to do it even better, more efficient. And beyond that, like what not to do. Hey, if I don't do this, the result will be good. If I do this, I'm going to feel some pain. In real life, that pain is a bullet, right? So I think it's really valuable training. Like you get immediate feedback because those rounds, like I said, they're coming at you fast and furious, and they're just really good. Now there's some like other stuff out there. I know a lot of people ask me about like airsoft and milsim and whatnot. That is something that we're leaning into. We're finding out more and more about it, and kind of like, really thinking, hey, it's a really good option because you can take airsoft and essentially do it anywhere, and for a fraction of the price that you can do other things once you have all the equipment. So it's also like, on our radar as far as things that we want to like look out for future training events and whatnot. The most sketchy thing I've done is solo clearings. Yeah, I guess if you're first on scene, like you kind of gotta do that. But that would not be fun. I cannot say I've ever done a solo clearing in real life. I've done it in training, but never in real life. So fundamentals of weapon safety and a possibility of dead space. Yeah, that's a good reason to do CQB training. Like, and to that point, to Garrett's point, um, when you're out there running around in a CQB environment, like the number one thing that gets people recocked or like literally kicked out of courses is safety violations. Like you're on a team with these people, you can't flag them, and you can't point your gun at them and expect for it not to be addressed. It's going to get addressed. It's going to get addressed immediately. And really, hopefully, like what comes from that is some learning, right? Like, oh man, because of the angle that I put myself in, or the guy in front of me shifted, I have to be more aware of that. And that's what having kind of like a team that you work with continuously can benefit you in, is that like if you're always conducting the same kind of collective training, then you know which way this guy's going to go, because you've trained it, you've drilled it, you have a very specific environment that you're used to dealing with, and you can kind of like cut out a lot of those areas where you might otherwise be just kind of figuring it out for the first time. And you can actually get in like really decent reps and get good feedback from your team. I think the thing that's most important when people show up to training that we go through or that we teach is essentially, learning how to clear a room from the outside. Start throwing comments up. Boom. It is essential. And remembering that the first clear is for fighters and the second is for hiders. Yeah. So like to that point, like I posted a video and I kind of flew through it a little faster than I probably should have, even though I was trying to go slow. But like you want to be able to literally clear as much of that space as possible from the outside. If and when you go through that door, that threshold, that is a major life commitment. Like you're accepting the fact at that point, and you got to make a decision. On a center fed room, you got to pick, hey, am I going left or am I going right? Depending if it's weak side or strong side, you got to make a decision, and you got to send it, and you're going to have to live or die by that decision, right? Because there's either somebody in that 5% of the room you couldn't clear on one side, or the 5% of the room on the other side that you couldn't clear, or there's nobody there, period. And there's so many intangibles that are going on when it comes to CQB, and crossing that threshold, it's a nightmare. It really is a nightmare. You want to clear as much of that as you can on the outside. that stuff, like, it gets my heart rate up. I'm like looking at my pulse socks right now, and it's like telling me, I'm like, what is it saying now? Start sweating over here thinking about CQB. 79 BPMs. That's where I'm at. Just sitting here thinking about the close quarters battle stuff, man. It's like, it'll get your heart rate up for sure, especially if you've done it in real life. Like, you understand, it's like, man, every little decision that you make in CQB is life and death. It's not like to chance, it is chance, but like, there's things that you can do. So I had somebody early on, hey, what's going on, Gordon? Early on in the life of my military career, I went to Iraq, and we did a lot of CQB stuff. But somebody like way wiser than me told me, they're like, hey, look, when you cross that threshold, man, you cross that threshold accepting the fact that you're dead. Like, that is the easiest way to deal with being a war fighter in an environment where you're going to be working in and out of close proximity areas. Like, I'm not saying you have to accept the fact that you are dead, but like, hey, I'm going to do this. I could die. I'm probably going to die. I'm okay with that because there's bad people in there that really need to die. That is the trade-off, right? Like, my life has purpose. I know that me going into that room right there, I have to do that because there's legit evil living over there. And if I don't go in there and I don't take them out or capture them, they're going to continue to do really evil stuff to really good people. And I'm not okay with that. That's kind of the mentality. Now, out here in the regular world that we live in here, the mindset is, not so different. It's like, hey, if you get a phone call from your spouse and they're like, hey, you got to get home right now, somebody's like trying to kick the door in, and we're scared, we have the kid, like, got the kids in the rally room, whatever, you're gonna get home like as fast as you can, right? Now, what do you do if when you get to your driveway, man, your door's already wide open, right? That's when that switch has to happen. Like, the layout of your house, you have an advantage, right? You know where your wife and kids are because she just told you, right? Now all you got to do is accept the fact that when you cross through that threshold into your house, one, you have the advantage on them. Two, you're willing to do anything and everything that you have to do to protect the lives of others. That's a worthy cause if I've ever seen it, or heard of one. Calm down. I'm joking, but I'm not. But I mean, so we don't do a lot of CQB training with regular people typically. I do what you would consider CQB stuff all the freaking time because, well, I live in a house, I live in a neighborhood, and I go in and out of buildings all day. You should be drilling down on, home defense, call it whatever you want, close home defense, or what would that be? CHD? It's close quarters battle, close quarters combat, whatever you want to call it what you want. But it's a skill that we should all be very fluent in. We all, again, not to keep repeating myself, but what I really, hey, she fires. What I really like to kind of impress on people is, it's not about adopting the warrior mentality necessarily. It's not about going and looking for a fight. I have a fire drill that I hope I never have to use, but if my house catches on fire, at least I know what my options are, right? We have car insurance in case we get into a collision or some sort of damage happens to our vehicle that was outside of our control. Well, I mean, even if it is inside of our control, like all these measures that we have in place to reduce risk, like we would hope that we never have to use them. Reality is there are people that have to be able to have the ability to use those skills. And like a common denominator across the board is, man, I wish I would have known then what I learned from that situation and now know. Like imagine like the average person that doesn't think that they need to own a firearm because they live in a safe neighborhood, and they think it's safe because the people around them are all living in six-figure houses, like, upper six figures. And the perception is, hey, nothing bad is ever going to happen here. Reality is the opposite. More home invasions happen in better neighborhoods than happen in lower income neighborhoods. Why is that? Because you can't rob from people that like, why are you going to rob from people that don't have much to rob from? I would like, they're going to places where people have more to lose, and where they think, based off of the media and trends, people are more passive and more willing to just kind of lay down and be like, hey, take whatever you want, not a big deal, I make enough money, I can replace it. um but but far too often hear about people saying, man, I wish I would have had skills equal to or greater than the force that kicked in my door, or took from me, or took the life of somebody around me because I didn't stand up and I didn't like take them out. I wish I would have had that skill then. So that's kind of like ballpark the reason why we got into, hosting a few events a year where we would drill down heavily on close quarters combat, because I want the people around me to, if 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 nothing but the minimum out of this happens, which is, hey man, I learned some stuff, and I'll probably never do it again, but it was a great exposure. Then that will stick in their heads, as they go throughout their life, and hopefully, knock on wood, they're never in a situation where they have to use those skills. it, they'll revert to that training, and they'll be like, wait, we covered this, like I know exactly what to do going down this long hallway. Boom. All right, I'm going to take this wall and I'm going to command it. Hey, buddy. Hey, I want you to go high. I'm going to go low. You're going to sweep across. We're going to converge on that point. We're going to stack on that threshold, and then we're going to blow through it. Hey, I'm weak side. There's the hinge. All right. That means you're strong side. All right. So, like, you're going to clear. I'm going to flow. I mean, like, all these things that could possibly, that you're going to learn if you show up to our training, or, for the war fighters out there that have done this stuff, for a profession and the law enforcement and all that. I mean, if you've already done this stuff or taken part in training with other professionals that like have dedicated their life to this, and you kind of already get it. But you don't go to this training so that you can be a battlefield multiplier. You go to this training so that you learn some skills, hopefully you'll never have to use, but then you take that with you and you keep grinding away at it to make yourself a little bit better, a little bit more prepared. And at the end of the day, it's all about, hey, if this situation happens, I'm going to make it as difficult as possible for them to kill me. I mean, I'm going to really make them earn it. Not going to give it away for free. So that, at the end of the day, is big picture why we started doing CQB. And we don't post a lot of it on social media. And whatever, it is what it is. Like, we show a little bit, we don't really show a lot. There's other people out there that are nonstop, like a water faucet. They're showing all the CQB stuff, and for them, that's cool. That's probably never going to be the direction that we go in, and not for any real reason or not. It's just, even though everybody else is out there doing it, we're not going to be like everybody else. We kind of like to show just enough to kind of give you the idea of like why you might want to, seek out that training. Let's see what's going on around here. Vanessa, all working class around me. Yeah, I would say like anything working class and above. Like I grew up in a working class neighborhood, and geez, you know, so anything can happen in any area at any time, regardless of lifestyle and wealth. True that. Just need a GAU 19 in my house and everything will be fine. Goodness gracious. Isn't that like the robot with like the miniguns on it? Things are crazy. But whatever, right? So this event that we're doing, it's gonna be awesome, right? Because one, we have the right guys in the right place that are gonna be teaching it. We have, really good students, it looks like so far signed up for it. And most everybody that's coming to this event are either, that's right, the A10s, um, law enforcement or prior military. I think we have a couple so far. I think we have 2 or 3 people that are, everyday regular citizens that just want to be a little bit more prepared. And I think that's awesome. Like, I think it's great that the military and law enforcement dudes are coming, because they deal with this stuff a lot too. Um, but I always get excited when we do these classes and regular everyday people show up to it. And that's usually what our Silent Legion project is all about. I think both times that we've done the Silent Legion project, so 2 years in a row now, I'm pretty sure that it's been regular guy heavy, which is awesome, because we give the same exposure. Hey, what's up, Clint? Um, regular guy here. It was like one of the first questions I asked Clint. I was like, dude, were you in the military at all ever? And he's like, no, man, just a regular dude. But and that's the awesome thing. It's the encouraging and motivating thing too. Like, you get out and like I've been out of the Army now for, jeez, man, almost 3 years. Holy cow. And so I've been retired for 3 years. And every now and then you run across people, man, that you're just like, hey, man, like, do you have any like military service? And they're just like, nope. And it's like, you are a representation of what's possible if you just drill down on it. But people got to want it too. Unfortunately, I feel like a lot of people kind of like are like, yeah, I know it's kind of like important. I probably should know how to do these things, but I just don't see a need to. And I got this whole big life going on, and I don't have a lot of time that I'm willing, to invest in X area. And and then something happens to them or somebody that they know or close to them, and they're like, hey, I think I'd like to get some training. It's like, man, if we could just like prevent all that from happening, something tragic happening to somebody that they know or them, and just get people more kind of on board with, hey, you're the only one that's responsible for your life at the end of the day. And the police are called first responders for a reason, right? They're the first to respond to a situation that has gotten way out of control and where somebody's hurt, right? Like firefighters, police officers, EMTs, first responders. By the time they're there, the damage has already been done. I know some people that I've talked to too is like, hey, like, CQE is all good and well, man, but like, when I go to jail, if I'm like hunting somebody in my house, and it's like, uh, what? Like, I mean, I've heard some guys be like, "Oh man, if somebody comes in, I hope somebody comes in my house and rips my TV down, and like tries to steal my stuff, I'll shoot and kill him right there on the spot." And it's like, and you will go to prison, right? Like if I hear something going on in my house, you know, like I do have night vision and stuff, so like I could probably like throw a helmet on and like get all my stuff like ready and like get real silent real quick, rally the family, and like then I could start hunting if I wanted to, and I'd probably win. But like, what's the point, right? Like, I don't want to go kill anybody. They can have whatever I have that's down here, but um, but daggone, like, or I could just hold up in a position that's strong that I can defend, and I can do a tactical call out and be like, "Hey, look, man, cops are on their way. They already know you're here. Might as well just get out of my house right now while you can." And if they come up, in my direction, wherever that is, then that's on them, right? So, oh boy, yeah, that's my Instagram. Sorry, I just never know if like I'm getting messages because of this stuff or whatever else. But anyways, your home is your castle, and I mean, we've all been to a gun range. We've all, well, not all of us, but like gun ranges are cool and they're great because they expose us to the power of firearms. They expose us to our weaknesses. They expose us to like what right looks like, more importantly, what not to do versus what we really need to do. And then once we find out what we need to do, it's like, oh, I need to do that better and better and better. And it never stops, right? It becomes an obsession almost where it's like, well, I want to be more accurate. And it goes from accuracy to, well, I want to be faster. And then it goes right back to accuracy because the faster I speed up, the less accurate I am. So it's like, hey, how do I harness both of those things and marry them together so that I am as fast as possible and as accurate as possible? And I would say that's a lifelong like hunt or chase. But you don't train until you get it right. You train until you can't get it wrong. Yeah, that's the difference between pros and the greats, right? Like, the regular person will be like, hey, I'm good enough and I've got it all right now and I'm good to go, but if you don't pressure test that, like anything else, I don't know what you would do for a profession, but like, think about Brazilian jiu-jitsu, for example, right? Like if you get your white belt and you get comfortable, and I think like in white belt you learn the basics, right? Like you sit there and you learn how to do, what the guard is, what the mount is, what the side mount, like half guard. You learn the triangle choke, you learn an arm bar. um, you learn the collar choke, especially if you're doing gi work. Then you learn a few other things like wrist locking and gi locking and whatnot. But like, you learn the basics. And if that's all you showed up there for, then that's all you're going to get out of it, right? Like you'll never, like, you'll get really good like at those things, but then like you won't learn how to counter those things, right? Or you won't learn like what's beyond that. You won't learn how to maneuver your body around so that you can, you know, manipulate them into thinking that they have you into, a move that is going to submit you or hurt you. Like you won't be able to learn the nuances of it. The same thing with like gun training or physical fitness or, like the gym and like hitting PRs or at your job trying to get that next promotion. Like if you don't get better at what you're already good at, then you're never going to grow. That's why I always say, like, there's no growth in your comfort zone. I heard that in recruiting school a long time ago because recruiting is like one of the scariest things for like most people. Most people are terrified of having to essentially solicit, themselves and try and sell people on, hey, you should join the military. Oh, okay. Why? Well, because you're an American. That does not work, right? Like for most people, you have to get them to push beyond, that personal limit. And you have to be able to do that too, like communicating effectively with other people. Like, hey, I'm okay with hearing the word no. I'm okay with you rejecting me. I'm okay with you, essentially not allowing me to convince you to join the military, but I'm going to keep working at my communication skills because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day for most people. You just didn't communicate it effectively enough for that person to get like what your message is. Same thing across the board. Everything that we do, we have to find ways to pressure test it. In recruiting, one way that they would do it is the way they would pressure test you is they would have you stand and essentially in pitch proficiency. Thank goodness, man, I was not a recruiter during that time. I would have been okay, but like they would just call it murder boards, man, because they would just send you in there and slaughter you, and people would come out, I guess, and they'd be like, they'd feel like less of a person. They'd be chopped down to the knees. But yeah, like you get out there and you train, you hit failure, right? You train to failure, you learn from that, and you keep grinding, you keep getting better. And like Garrett said, one day you'll reach a point where you don't get it wrong. I don't know when that day will come. I haven't gotten there across the board on everything. I've gotten there on a few things, but It's muscle memory and it's dedication. But if you're comfortable, then you're doing it wrong. Yeah, that's true. For real. Uh, I mean, except for marriage, right? Like you kind of want to be comfortable in your marriage. Like you don't want to be like all uncomfortable all the time. Like, oh man, why am I here? Um, there's hotlines for that. But anyways, we're at 41 minutes and 35 seconds. I don't really have a lot else, and I'm not going to stay on here just to, for the sake of being on here. Like we're usually out like to right at the hour mark. Um, but today was, hopefully the people that ask those questions will view this later on. Hopefully it answers any and all questions that people may have. CQB, it looks cool, but it's the last thing in the world you want to do. It's a great skill to learn. I tell people this, I'll tell all of you the same thing. What you want to get really good at close quarters battle, start walking around your house. Take your corners wide, like scan your areas, look beyond the corner, look beyond the threshold, like see, like when you go to the bathroom and you open up your bathroom door, and once that hinge separates from the door, there's that narrow gap, right, that you can kind of see inside of as it hey, what's up, She Fires? Glad to have you here. Like you can open up your door and you can see through that little crack, right? And you can practice like on your way to the bathroom, pulling that door open slowly, and just like with your hand and your eyes, like at a compression, you can practice looking through it and sidestepping until that crack is almost closed, at which point your door is open. And then you can practice your footwork. How do I take that deep step in? How do I negotiate corners going into a stairwell if I have one at my house? Right? How many seconds does it take me to open my door and get from my door into my kitchen? Or if you have a 2-story house or 1-story house or 3-story house, like whatever it is, wherever your bedrooms are, how long does it take you at a motivated pace to get from your front door to these rooms? And that'll tell you all the time that you have if your door gets kicked in the middle of the night. That'll help you build a plan. Be like, hey, I know that we have about 15 seconds of life before somebody goes through that door and they can get to us. And how many seconds, like being humble about it, right? How many seconds do you think it would take you to get woken up in the middle of the night, hear a loud, strange noise, and react immediately and be like, oh man, I got to get up right now, grab my tools, save my family, do whatever, right? Like, and that's how you build a plan. What you do is you really figure out where you're deficient, what your time is, and what the distance is, and then you can create like a solid plan and be like, hey, I can't get to everybody, but I can get to my stairs, and I can hold down my stairs. Like, are my walls thick enough for a gunfight and not have like, fatalities on my end? And if they are thin, then know the angles of your house, right? Have your ammo set up differently for home defense. I don't know. Like if you think, hey, I might have to shoot through a wall because that's the best, most advantageous way that I could protect myself, then have a staggered load. There's like, I'm saying, like the options are limitless when it comes to CQB. But if you want to get good at it, you just start walking around your house. We get up, we go to the kitchen, we go to the bathroom, we go to our bedroom, the laundry rooms, we go to the basements, the garages. We do all that stuff. And it all has a foot count to it, and it all takes time. I think somebody already put it in here. Yeah, pieing the corners. Like the corners to, whatever. Every single room that you have has corners, or the entrance to a room has doors. And you can start clearing from the outside in and do your arc movement. Start off tight, arc out while clearing back to the other side of the door, and then commit to going in. And then when you go in, which way are you orienting? Like, are you going left every time? Or are you going right every time? I'm telling you, it's kind of exciting when people first get into it. It's like competition shooters that I've known, like they have like these little miniature like USPSA targets up everywhere, and they're just like dry firing, and they're getting after it, and they're getting the fundamentals down and their sight pictures, and really working on the finer skills. It's like that with your house. Your house is your own like kingdom that you can run around in, and really get really intimate with every single corner of your house. So hope that helps everybody. Next week we will not be talking about CQB. We will not, and we got some other pretty cool stuff lined up for next week and the weeks after that. So I'm not going to put it out here yet, but somebody that was in the chat here earlier is going to be on for an interview, and I'm looking forward to a potential collaboration with somebody else in here that joined the chat a little later on, getting maybe them out here to Ohio for a big shoot that we're trying to put together. So all big things coming out. And bottom line is we're here for everybody out there. If we can help you in any way, shape, or form, that's the value at the end of the day. To be able to transfer the skills that we have, over to the people, that don't have them, and also to sharpen our own knife, so to speak. So thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in tonight. Be safe, live free, and have a great night. We'll see you.